What's up, everybody? Perpetual Panda here, and I'm doing something a little bit different for my YouTube channel today. Today, we are going to be doing a slight recap of my recent D&D session. I've been a big fan of D&D for a little while now. I enjoy watching people like Puffin Forrest tell his D&D stories, so I thought I'd try something a little bit along those lines and see how it goes. Now, this is my first ever full-on DM session. I had a little bit of experience running a dungeon before. My friend had his campaign and he asked me to run a dungeon so he could play his character, and my character was kind of out of the picture for right now, so I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot. But this is my first time actually running a full campaign. Now, with that being said, let's get into the details. So this campaign is slightly based off of Saltmarsh, but it's also completely and utterly kind of my own homebrew rules. And homebrew rules are including things like I'm gonna have my characters have slight overencumbrance, like they can't carry a shit ton of stuff. I actually got this idea from another YouTuber. I'll link him in the description below. Of the death saves and whatnot are going to actually be a secret, so it kind of pushes the urgency of the heroes trying to save one another or not, depending on how they feel in the moment. There's a few other homebrew rules, but we can kind of get into those later on if you guys are curious. I'm hoping this actually works out really nicely. I hope you guys enjoy this. But, so, yeah, our story, for the most part, starts about, I want to say, okay, so I had this planned, but most of this I was kind of flying off the seat of my pants. I have a basic idea and outline of how I'm going about this, but without further ado, I'm going to do a little bit of voice acting and try and give a synopsis. You see, about 500 years ago, there was a great mage war between four major mages. Only one survived, and he ruled over the land with an iron fist. The four mages' names, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I couldn't come up with names on the fly, so turns out that the mages' names are Richard, Diggard, Sniggard, and Frickard. Yeah, those are the names of the villains. Again, I'm flying off the seat of my pants, so I can't believe that. But I'm rolling with it, and we're going to see how this goes. So anyways, 500 years ago, there was a war between the four mages, Richard, Dickard, Sniggard, and Frickard. Only one survived. His name was Richard. He was the strongest of them all, an evil dark mage who ruled over the land with an iron fist until one fateful day, the greatest warrior in all the land got fed up with his shit. He devised a plan to get 5 magical items from across the world, or land. And with those items, he was able to kill the great mage. But since the last mage was killed, all magic was lost. Nobody can have access to magic. Nobody knows why. But within the past 100 years or so, the Mage's Tower seems to have appeared and has been starting to take over the land. And one by one, each of the cities are struggling. Saltmarsh in particular, there is no fish. There's the rival towns in the coast refuse to trade with Saltmarsh. It's just going very poorly. The Duke of Saltmarsh is so desperate, he entrusts his great general in order to try and find a solution. And the great general's idea was, well, I can try and muster up a adventuring party. And so that's where our adventure began. As we can see, the general is going all the way from the Duke's house to the barracks. Once he arrives in the barracks, he says, "Men, assemble." Well, Turns out one of the men, aka one of my player characters named Ja. It's a long story, funny joke about. So my friend's characters can't really quite name himself. Like, he has a hard time coming up with names. So his original name was Jazu. Well, I made the joke that I was going to constantly keep accidentally pronouncing his name Zazu. Like the bird from The Lion King. Well, he's like, I'm not going to like that idea. So what he did was he made an abbreviation. So, hence came the name Ja. Well, during this D&D session, we were also in the midst of cooking dinner. And so, when I was introduced, the general said, "Ready up, men." Ja was busy over in the kitchen cooking up some spicy ramen. And so, in a bit of improv, I decided to be like, "Ja, I don't care about your souffle. I don't care if it falls. Get your ass over here." He's like, I'm trying to perfect my souffle. I don't care. So this banter went back and forth for a couple minutes, and eventually he showed up. The dialogue was interesting to go in between the two. So essentially, the general goes, "Ja, I have a bit. I cannot speak, apparently. Ja, I have an important mission for you to take on." And Ja goes, "What is it, sir?" "Well, you see, Saltmarsh is in grave danger. There's a kraken attacking every ship that leaves port. The surrounding towns refuse to trade with us. And yes, the place is in bitter hell." Well, what do you plan on doing, General?" "Well, I have been told by the Duke of Saltmarsh that we must create an adventuring party, and you, being the best among my second in command, basically, I figured it would be only fitting to send you on this mission, and find yourself an adventuring party." "You want me to find an adventuring party?" "Yes. I mean, we could entrust it to Jeremy over there." Over in the corner, you see a soldier named Jeremy. He's not too bright, and whatnot, just sitting there. Okay, I feel really bad for saying this, but I made it so he was eating paste. He's just sitting there. "Yes, sir. You want me to set up an adventure party? I can totally do that, sir." As he's waltzing over, Ja trips him, and he falls into his jar of paste, face first. So Jaws goes, "Yeah, I don't think we're entrusting Jeremy with anything." "Fair enough. So, I want you to go out into town and make an adventuring party." "That's great, sir, but I need 3 potions." "3 potions, huh? Okay. I can give you 3 gold for potions, but it's coming out of your paycheck." "But, sir, I need these potions." He rolls to try and sway the general. Succeeds with a 18. "Fine, I guess I can give you an allowance and give you some gold to go buy your potions." "Thank you, sir. I will be on my way to find an adventuring party." So, without further ado, Jacques goes waltzing off and goes to find his adventuring party. In the meantime, his brother sneaks up behind him. Now, these two characters apparently have a long back history of the great mage that is still alive burned down their village, and Ja was an orphaned, so they kind of became close brothers in arms. So, essentially what happened after that is Ja pops up, and they have kind of a brotherly war between each other. Like, every time they see him, they kind of like fisticuffs, like brother versus brother and whatnot. So he's like, Oh, John, my old pal. How are you doing, bro? And he's like, I'm going on an adventure. And I've been told to keep making an adventuring party, and I was wondering if you'd like to come along. That sounds intriguing. What's in it for us? Well, it just so happens that the evil mage is possibly responsible for this entire thing. The evil mage, you say? Is that the one that burned down our village? Yes, from what I've been told. Not much is known about him. But we have to go create the rest of our adventuring party. Okay, maybe we should start at the inn. We'll start at the inn then. And so they walk down, leisurely down to the tavern slash inn. And this is where we end up with what I spent about a good 2.5, 3 hours creating the Sleeping Kraken Inn. Oh boy. I figured I would start trying to actually draw the maps out, like certain specific locations, to try and give the players a bit more immersiveness. And so I made this map, and as you can see, there's off to the right a stage, off to the left there's also to the right of that stage a fruit and veggie stand. And then as you can see behind it, there's a little backstage area. Then in the back of the map is the bar. Then there's off to left and right of the bar, there's axe throwing, darts, and darts. And then in the middle, you have pool tables, a bunch of tables. And then off to the corner, you have a small booth. Lo and behold, this is where one of the characters wanted to be introduced. So, they introduced. Long story short, Ja and his brother, his name slips the top of my head. Give me 1 second. Godfried is the other character's name. Godfried and Ja. Their last name is Broderick. I don't know why they chose that as a last name, but it is what it is. Anyways, as we venture into the tavern, I have my characters roll for perception, insight, the general gist of looking around, seeing what they see and whatnot. And Ja looks around, and he sees a peculiar fruit and vegetable stand to the right of the stage. And he goes over to try and investigate and see what's what. So, in the meantime, Godfried decides to, you know what? I'm going to sneak up on my brother and just give him a rustle in the back of the head and maybe push him into that fruit cart. Okay. He rolls to stealthily sneak. Ja does not realize he's sneaking up on him. And Godfried's like, let's see. And he slaps him on the back of the head, knocking him into the tomatoes. The two of them go back at it. The bar doesn't notice at all. I had all the NPCs kind of roll and see what they, if they notice them fighting over at the fruit and vegetable stand. Nobody notices. So, again, I messed this up. Actually, before they head to the inn, Ja goes to the local docks and finds a shipwright yelling at somebody because of their poor craftsmanship. Hey, that boat is not gonna work. There is a hole in the boat. And I have the NPC roll and see if he noticed. And he's like, he looks at the plans. He's like, oh, someone got a giant ink splab on the blueprints for this little rowboat, and I thought it was just a design. It was supposed to be there. It was a hole. No. So this character is one of my other friends. His name is Alton. He takes pride in craftsmanship and hates anybody who uses poor craftsmanship. And will go after them if he sees poor craftsmanship, which is what's happening right now. And so Ja walks over and is like, hey, I'm supposed to be setting up an adventure party. And he's like, an adventure party, huh? Yes, and I'm going to need a boat and a few other things. Would you care to join us? Yes. But I will have to set... it's going to cost a lot of money to build us a boat. Have no fear. And Ja decides, apparently at some point, that his brother Godfried grabbed a blank check from the Duke, or stole a blank check from the Duke, and gave it to his brother. I don't know why I allowed this, but I did. I thought it was funny. And so Ja gives Alton a blank check and is like, here, you can design your own ship. But first, we need to go get the rest of our party, so you can figure out how many this boat is going to have to hold. Okay. Sounds good to me. Let's go. And so that's when they head towards the Sleeping Kraken Inn to try and find a fellow adventure party. So, after being pushed into a fruit cart, they just keep brawling, and then they notice off in the corner there's a booth with very little light, but they can vaguely make out a mysterious figure. A very, very vague and mysterious figure. They're like, ooh, he seems interesting. Because the rest of them are kind of like regular sailors, townsfolk, nothing really important. They're looking for apt adventurers who look above the norm, so to speak. And so Alton decides to walk over with Ja and Godfried and visit this mysterious stranger. And here's where character, whose name has not been come up with yet, introduced himself. He-Man. Oh, I'm sorry. Human. I did not see you there. What do you want? Meanwhile, the barkeeps are just like, hey, sir, would you like a drink? Sir, would you like a drink? Only 2 copper pieces. And, they get into a bit of a conversation. Yes, I remember the war. And then I have them roll for history to see if they remember the war. Because remember, the war took place about 500 years ago. That's a long time to remember. Everybody else rolls decent. Alton rolls about a 19, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt of knowing... oh, no, not Alton. Godfried rolls a 19, so he knows everything about the war. Like, he knows who won, who lost, what the results were. Alton rolls about a 12, so I give him the basic knowledge. Like, he knows that there was a war, he knows that somebody lost, and that's about it. And then there's Ja, who couldn't roll anything higher than a 7. So I was talking, and I told Ja, you know nothing of a war. You had no idea something like that existed. Nothing whatsoever. So, as a character who has not come up with a name yet, explains about the war, and then he talks about the magical college he used to attend, the university. And I have them roll again for history to see if they know about this magical college that used to be very popular before the mages disappeared and all magic was lost, basically. And so we get to rolling again. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. And they all roll. They all get decent rolls, so again, kind of same order. Godfried knows pretty much everything. Alton knows a little bit. And then there's Ja, who rolled a crit 1. A critical failure. So in his head, he's like, Mage College, Mage College, Mage College, Mage College. And every time he was trying to, he just kept thinking, So I kept letting him re-roll every time he kept like trying to remember. And eventually, he used up so much of his brain power just to remember, but he finally remembered. He's just like, oh, the Mage College. I remember now. Yeah, that was the thing. So they talked, and they were talking about with the stranger being like, so what's your goal? What do you want? It's like, how can we convince you? Well, you see, all I want to do is die. Really? Oh, and by the way, we also had him roll to see if they notice he's a skeleton. Again, Ja absolutely failed his rolls. So he's just looking at him as a normal guy. And then occasionally Ja and Godfried were kind of bickering back and forth, and they're like, did you hear something about a skeleton? Yeah, that's kind of weird. I don't know what he's talking about. But anyways, yeah, so all I want to do is die. Really? Yes. I've seen too many people die in front of me, and I'm getting sick of it. I just wanted to die. I've tried everything. Well, perhaps this mage could be able to help. It does seem possible. I guess I can join. Now, this took up about 2 hours roughly to get to this point. So, I mean, most of it has been flying with the seat of my pants. But then we got into an argument because, so I had the barkeep be like, alright, it's happy hour, everybody. Half price on drinks with the purchase of an appetizer. And so Godfrey runs over and buys a loaf of bread. Now, a loaf of bread is about 2 copper pieces. And then he buys a hunk of cheese, which is 1 silver piece. Alright, chef, we have a cheese sandwich. A grilled cheese sandwich. Right on it, sir. And so from there, he decided to start munching down while there's literally dozens upon dozens of other people coming to the bar trying to buy drinks with their appetizers. And so they get into a chatty session with the barkeep, and they want to spend the night at the inn. Now, one of my homebrew things is I am going to have gold and resources be a bit harder to come by, and they are going to have to spend on rations and stuff like that. So I had them spend nights at the inn. Now, there were 5 levels of comfort, but I went down to 4. There was poor, moderate, comfy, and then like the aristocratic, like high end. So then the two got into a debate between character who doesn't have a name yet and Ja, because Ja's like, I'll pay for the rooms. Well, he paid for a broom closet, which is the poor, and 2 comfy rooms. 1 for him, 1 for Ja. Or not for Ja. 1 for Ja and 1 for Alton. Because Godfrey decided, hey, you know what? I don't want to spend money at the inn. I'm going to just go back to my house. And so he waltzed back to his house to go to sleep for the night. And so it was a debate on who gets the broom closet. Well, eventually Ja's like, fine, I'll take the broom closet. So what I have now is what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this modification of sleep, where based on, well, your relative, like, sleeping, like, you know, like you sleep in a comfy or like a luxury, you get a full well-rested, whereas if you stay in the broom closet, you kind of get a disadvantage. And what I did was, is basically I made it so, like, if you sleep in the broom closet, you get back pain the next day, and you lose 5 feet of movement speed for the next day. I figured that was a fair trade-off, because you're going to be like, my back still hurts, so you're not going to be running as fast and whatnot. And this played a part in nothing, but they stayed the night at the inn. And then, so what I did was, the next 2 hours, because he wrote a blank check, I gave them the opportunity to sit there and design their boat. Now, I have specific mechanics on how, like, because they're going to have offensive things like cannons, trebuchets, catapults, stuff like that on a boat. So what I did was I separated it into categories. They have 4 weapon slots for their boat. So a cannon takes up 1, a light trebuchet, like one that's very maneuverable that can shoot like crossbow bolts and stuff, is 1. Then there's the heavy trebuchet, which is the big bulky one that shoots a giant bolt. And then there's also things like a mortar or a catapult. And we chose... Oh, wait. It wasn't trebuchet. It was balliste. Sorry. My bad. And so we chose... They spent the next 2 hours designing a boat. At least Ja and Alton did. The other 2 decided, let's go back to the inn and we'll play some billiards, because my friend has a billiards table down below. And so, me being the DM I am, we went downstairs and we started playing billiards, and I played the barkeep. His name is Francesco, and he has owned this bar for a long time. In fact, it was his dad's. And so they just bantered back and forth until they decided to design the Forsaken, is what they're calling their vessel. It's not bad. They made a small galleon from like Sea of Thieves. It's not bad looking. They freaking had everything that you could ever have on a luxury ship kind of deal. They had showers, they had everything, the kitchen, everything. And so that's about where the campaign is so far. They just designed their ship. I think the next session, so it's going to take about at least a month or 2 months to actually build this ship in-game. So next session is probably going to be them exploring the town, figuring out more character development and stuff like that. Well, hopefully, I hope this was entertaining for you guys. I had a lot of fun with D&D, and I hope to actually have a better way of doing this in the future. But this is my first ever try at this. So let me know in the comments below what you guys thought, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, show that like button some love with a big bear hug, and I'll be back before you can say bamboo. See you soon.